The day may have begun like so many others, with a quiet determination that feels heavy in your chest, a list of tasks that looks more like a mountain than a map, and a stubborn promise to yourself that this time you will carry it all without asking for anything from anyone. You want to rely on your own hands, your own mind, your own heart. You want to succeed on your own. Yet even as you tighten your grip, something in your shoulders rises toward your ears, and your breathing grows shallow, and a whisper inside asks a question you rarely admit out loud. If I'm doing this the right way, why does it feel so exhausting? Independence is noble, but isolation is corrosive. You sense the difference in your body even when your words do not say it. There is a version of you that moves through the day, with a steadier pulse, a clearer gaze, and a quieter mind. And tonight, we are going to find the path to that version, not by adding noise, not by chasing applause, but by returning to wisdom that has outlived empires. I want to speak to the place in you that has been faithful and tired, discerning and misunderstood, brave and on the brink of burnout. I see the late nights where your thoughts keep circling the same problems. I see the early mornings where your chest feels tight before you even open your eyes. I see the way you keep giving more effort, hoping effort alone will become direction. Your nervous system does not need more adrenaline. It needs alignment. When your inner world is ordered, energy flows instead of spills. When your next step is clear, your brain's threat center quiets its alarms, your breath deepens, your shoulders lower, and your prefrontal clarity, the part of you that plans and chooses, finally comes back online. This is practical spirituality, caring for the soul in ways that steady the body, and caring for the body in ways that open the soul. There is a reason ancient wisdom keeps returning to the same compass points: counsel, rhythm, preparation, stewardship, and alliance. These sound like grand words until you feel what they do inside you. Counsel softens the edges of your fear and helps your mind track reality instead of rehearsed worry. Rhythm takes your scattered effort and gives it a heartbeat. Preparation separates movement from mere motion. Stewardship teaches your hands to multiply the little you already have. Alliance reminds your nervous system that safety increases when trust is braided. You do not need more noise to succeed. You need a pattern that lets your gifts breathe. The body responds, the mind rests, and courage renews itself not by force, but by wise structure. Solomon once wrote that plans become solid through counsel, that ruling your spirit is greater than conquering a city, that a house stands well when the work is prepared in the field, that the ant's small deposits become a storehouse, and that cords braided together do not snap when the wind rises. You can hear these lines as poetry, or you can hear them as design. I encourage you to hear them as design. They are not demands that shame you. They are invitations that steady you. When your inner rhythm is governed, your outer results follow. When your map is drawn before your bricks are laid, your labor begins to sing. When your seed is honored before it becomes a harvest, your days stop feeling like drought. When your relationships are shaped by reliability instead of performance, doors open before you knock. If you have been carrying a private disappointment, the launch that stalled, the habit that frayed, the promise you meant to keep but didn't, let this moment be a gentle turning, not a harsh verdict. Guilt narrows the breath and fogs the mind. Gentle truth widens the lungs and returns the eyes to the horizon. Notice what happens as you listen right now. Your attention is slowing, your breathing is lengthening, your jaw is unclenching. This is not weakness. This is strength rediscovered. The body is telling you the truth. Clarity relieves pressure, and pressure relieved becomes power. Your independence is not on trial. The method is. You may have been taught, directly or by example, that independence means doing everything alone, that asking for perspective means you are less, that pacing yourself means you are not serious, that small beginnings are proof of small potential. The soul knows better, and your nervous system agrees. True independence is not the absence of help, it is the presence of mastery. Mastery of your attention, so it is not stolen by every urgency. Mastery of your pace, so your best hours are protected like a sacred window. Mastery of your plan, so each action stacks and compounds rather than scatters and evaporates. Mastery of your resources, so little becomes much. Mastery of your alliances, so your name travels where your feet have not yet walked. I am not here to accuse you of striving. I am here to bless the part of you that refuses to live small, and to give that part a structure strong enough to carry your calling. You do not need to shout to become heard by the right people, and you do not need to hurry to arrive on time. You need a compass that holds north when emotions sway, a throne room inside where your impulses bow to your intentions, a blueprint that keeps your hands from building in the wrong order, a seed practice that turns one talent into 3 outcomes, and quiet alliances that let your reputation arrive before you do. You will feel this wisdom in your body as relief and in your calendar as momentum. You will feel it in your sleep as rest and in your decisions as courage. Before we walk, pause and listen for one simple signal from within. Ask your heart, with tenderness rather than pressure, where has independence become a weight instead of a wing? Notice the first place your attention lands. Perhaps it is a decision you have kept postponing because the stakes feel high and the fog feels thick. Perhaps it is a daily ritual you start and stop because pressure surges and then dissipates. Perhaps it is a project that stays busy and underfed at the same time. Wherever your attention lands, honor it. You are not behind. You are at the doorway. The doorway is quiet, and it is open. Let this be the promise you carry from this first breath of the journey. You will still walk on your own feet. You will still choose with your own mind. You will still build with your own hands. And yet you will not walk blind. You will not choose in panic. You will not build in the dark. You will walk with a compass. You will choose from a throne. You will build from a blueprint. You will plant a seed and watch it become a storehouse. You will braid your efforts with trust so that the cord holds when weather changes. This is not theory for someone else. This is design for you. Hold this with me for a final moment. Your life does not need more noise to become powerful. It needs a pattern that lets wisdom breathe through it. You can feel the pattern already, like a quiet rhythm under your ribs, like the first map line on an empty page, like a cool wind in a crowded room. Breathe once more, slowly. Set your shoulders down. Place your attention on one decision you will make from calm rather than pressure. You are ready. The map is near. The first step is gentle, and it counts. Before the road bends into action, a quiet map unfolds in the mind and in the body. It is the kind of map that does not shout or hurry. It settles the chest. It lengthens the breath. It tells your nervous system that the path is real and that the steps belong to you. Independence begins to feel less like a weight and more like a rhythm. The fog thins, the noise loses its grip. The journey becomes a series of clear rooms you can walk through at your own pace, with your own dignity intact. 5 rooms wait ahead, each one carrying a different form of relief. The first is a room with a compass on the table. It teaches the difference between being alone and being cut off, between owning a decision and carrying it without any light. When a wise voice shares perspective, the body often answers first. The shoulders lower. The jaw softens. The mind stops spinning in narrow circles and begins to track the horizon. Counsel does not replace your will, it steadies it. The second room is an inner court with a simple throne. It is not about power over others. It is about pacing within. The brain loves pattern. When a soulful rhythm begins to govern your mornings and evenings, the stress alarms quiet. Focus returns to the front of the mind. Emotion finds its voice without taking the wheel. In that court, promises are kept not by pressure but by design. You feel the difference as steadiness rather than strain. The third room room holds a blueprint rolled open on clean wood. Here the body understands that preparation is kindness. The heart rate slows when tomorrow has a sketch. Motion is no longer mistaken for progress. Each effort lands where it can compound. The day stops feeling like a handful of sand, slipping through the fingers, and begins to feel like bricks, finding their place in a wall that will stand. The fourth room smells like earth after rain. There are seeds in small bowls, ordinary and alive. Possibility grows when the eyes learn to see what is already in the hand. A skill, a story, a single relationship marked by trust. When one seed becomes 3 expressions, the brain records a simple truth. Growth is not a spectacle. It is a sequence. The heart learns to celebrate small beginnings because it recognizes them as honest beginnings. The 5th room opens to city gates at first light. Paths cross there, not with noise, but with names that carry quiet credibility. Safety increases when reliability is braided. Opportunity widens when trust is mutual. You can feel it in your body when someone's presence lowers your guard rather than spikes your vigilance. 2 walk farther than 1, not because one is weak, but because shared strength keeps both standing when weather changes. This is the map, a compass that invites perspective without surrendering agency, an inner court where rhythm outruns impulse, a blueprint that turns effort into structure, a seed practice that multiplies what is modest and true, a set of gates where reliable names meet and open doors without fanfare. As these rooms take shape within you, a quiet alignment begins. Thought, feeling, and choice start to agree. Independence remains, but isolation dissolves. What felt heavy begins to feel holy. There is a kind of strength that looks like silence and late nights and a jaw set so tight it almost trembles. It says, I will carry it all and I will not be a burden to anyone. At first it feels like virtue. Over time it begins to taste like exhaustion. The body keeps the score before the mind admits it. The breath grows shallow. The shoulders climb. Decisions blur together. A person who once felt brave and awake begins to feel unseen, as if the world were moving on without noticing how hard they are trying to do the right thing. This is the lone wolf trap. It is not a failure of character. It is a pattern that burns through good people. Wise independence feels different in the body. It keeps agency in your hands while refusing the myth that clarity must be found in isolation. A wise voice near you is not a leash, it is light. The nervous system knows the difference. In the presence of steady counsel, the heart rate eases and the spinning thoughts slow and space opens between stimulus and choice. You remain the decision maker. You simply stop walking in the dark. Picture a builder at the edge of a vast wilderness. The trees are beautiful and endless and also disorienting. In one hand there is stubborn pride and a vow to prove something. In the other hand, there is a simple compass. The first hand grips harder and goes in circles. The second hand relaxes and begins to trace a line that actually leads somewhere. This is the difference between trying to be impressive and choosing to be guided. The compass does not walk for you. It keeps you from being lost. Counsel is like a circle of vantage points that complete a picture your eyes cannot capture alone. One voice has seen farther down the same road than you have. One voice walks beside you and knows your strengths and blind spots in real time. One voice works with the craft you are pursuing and hears the difference between a clean cut and a dull one. Together, they steady your thinking without stealing your authority. The final choice is still yours, and it is stronger because reality has shaped it. There is a simple truth that both spirituality and neuroscience affirm. Being resourced calms the alarm system inside you. When your world narrows and the threat center takes the wheel, options disappear and urgency replaces discernment. When you feel supported and seen, your brain's planning center comes back online and subtler information becomes available again. You notice the pattern behind the noise. You sense the timing that hurrying always drowns out. You return to yourself. Pride and fear often travel together. Pride whispers that asking for perspective means you are not enough. Fear whispers that if you slow down to listen, you will fall behind. Wisdom answers with a softer and sturdier voice. You are already enough to choose well, and you will choose better with light on the path. You will not fall behind when you pause to orient. You will actually arrive with more of yourself intact. Imagine a decision that has weighed on you for weeks. Imagine allowing 3 calm voices to hold it with you for a moment. Someone who has lived through a similar crossroad and bears the marks of learning rather than bitterness. Someone who knows you today and can reflect without flattery or severity. Someone whose skill rests in the very field where your decision must land. Notice what happens inside as these perspectives touch the problem. Edges round off, hidden costs appear, hidden opportunities appear too. You begin to hear your own voice more clearly because it is no longer echoing in an empty room. Solomon taught that plans are established by counsel. Hear that not as a rule meant to bind you, but as a design meant to steady you. Plans that breathe and endure are rarely born from solitary pressure. They are born from solitude that listens and from conversation that reveals what the eyes alone could not see. The result is not compliance. The result is ownership. You own the path because you faced it in the light. There is a quiet habit that often changes the feel of an entire week. Give a decision the gift of 3 wise perspectives, and then give yourself the gift of a single sentence that captures your choice. When a decision is held by light and then held by language, the body lets go of a layer of tension. The mind stops circling the same unfinished loop. You sense a line that points forward rather than a maze that keeps you where you started. Relief is not laziness. Relief is power returned to purpose. You may notice a gentle courage rise as you picture this. The courage does not shout. It settles. It does not need to win an argument. It simply knows where north is and begins to walk. With each step, the old story of doing everything alone loses its grip. Independence remains and isolation fades. The face softens. The spine stays tall. The work becomes cleaner because it is no longer a performance. It is a path. Let the image of the compass stay with you, not as a symbol of doubt, but as a sign of wisdom. You still move on your own feet. You still choose with your own mind. You still carry your own responsibilities. Only now you walk with orientation. The night can be long and the forest can be dense, yet a small instrument in a steady hand can turn wandering into a way. This is wise independence. It is not loud. It is not showy. It is reliable. It is how plans settle. It is how a life that once felt heavy begins to feel possible again. There is a kingdom within that sets the tone for everything your hands attempt in the world. When the inner court is in disorder, the outer work rattles like loose stones in a cart. When the inner court is governed, the same work begins to move with a quiet strength that feels almost effortless. The body knows the difference long before the calendar does. The shoulders soften, the breath deepens, the eyes focus without strain. What once felt like a fight with yourself becomes a steady companionship with your purpose. Many bright and brave people try to solve inner disorder by pushing harder, more willpower, more force, more late nights that taste like metal on the tongue. Yet willpower is a sprinting muscle, and your calling is a long road. The nervous system needs rhythm more than it needs heroics. Rhythm is what steadies the pulse when pressure rises. Rhythm is what brings the planning center of the mind back to the front when urgency tries to hijack the wheel. Rhythm does not shame you for being human. Rhythm blesses your humanity with a pattern that holds. Solomon spoke to this with a sentence that carries the weight of a city gate. Better to rule your spirit than take a city. You can feel the truth of it even before you analyze it. Taking a city is impressive. Ruling your spirit is transformational. One dazzles the crowd and drains the soul. The other builds a life that does not collapse in the wind. Ruling your spirit is not about suppressing emotion or silencing desire. It is about giving every part of you a place and a pace. It is about seating wisdom on the throne and inviting impulse to kneel and learn. In the language of the body, this looks like coherence. The heart slows just enough to lengthen your attention. The breath finds a cadence that feeds the brain with oxygen and quiets the alarms. The muscles stop bracing for impact and begin to trust that clarity is coming. The part of the mind that solves problems opens its eyes again. Options return. Creativity returns. The future stops feeling like a threat and begins to feel like a landscape you can walk. In the language of the soul, this looks like consent. Your values step forward. Your intention takes the scepter. Your days stop arguing with each other. The morning and the evening begin to agree. Promise and action make eye contact and decide to walk together. Love and truth share the same table. You do not bully yourself into alignment. You bless yourself into it. You bless your attention with focus. You bless your energy with pace. You bless your choices with context. You bless your emotions with a safe place to speak and a wise place to rest. There is a simple ritual that embodies this inner rulership, and it does not require perfection to work. In a quiet moment, a person remembers a promise they made and lets it stand in the light. The body softens when truth is honored without drama. The mind remembers that commitment is a shelter, not a cage. Then a single boundary is named and treated as a guardian rather than a prison. The nervous system relaxes when the gate is closed against the one thing that keeps breaking the peace. Finally, a familiar temptation is answered in advance, with a clear sentence that feels alive in the mouth. The future arrives and finds you already decided. The day begins, and it is not hunting you anymore. Call this daily kingship. Not in pomp, in presence. A small throne in the center of the self where intention presides and all other parts bring their gifts. The anxious part brings vigilance that is reoriented toward watchfulness rather than worry. The tired part brings limits that protect what matters. The ambitious part brings fire that is aimed rather than sprayed. Each part takes its seat. Each part is heard. Each part yields to wisdom. Inconsistency often melts in the presence of this gentleness. What looked like laziness reveals itself as confusion. What looked like procrastination reveals itself as fear without a name. What looked like emotional swings reveals itself as a body asking for rhythm. You are not broken. You are unmapped, and maps can be drawn. A promise held in the morning can turn into quiet progress by midday. A boundary honored in the afternoon can keep the evening clear. A temptation pre-answered at dusk can let the night return your rest. There is beauty in how small moments change large outcomes. A fingertip of pressure placed on the right point of a compass moves the line of a whole journey. A minute of reflection given to a promise realigns a week. A sentence that protects a boundary saves hours that used to leak away. A decision about a recurring temptation preserves the very energy you need for the work that matters. Start and stop cycles begin to shorten. The engine stalls less. Momentum becomes a friend who waits for you at the door each morning. Hold an image that can live inside your day without strain. A throne that is simple and strong. A scepter that feels like a pen in the hand. A room where silence is not empty but full. In that room, you meet yourself with honesty that does not bruise. You acknowledge what is true today without punishing who you were yesterday. You offer your future the gift of a pattern that fits the size of your life. You leave that room with your breath unhurried and your step decisively human. Better to rule your spirit than take a city. Let the sentence walk with you like a steady companion. Let it remind your body that governance is kindness. Let it remind your mind that clarity deserves time. Let it remind your heart that love requires pace. The outer building will come. The bricks will find their lines. The doors will hang straight. But first, the inner court receives its quiet order. And when it does, the world outside begins to mirror the peace you carry within. Some days run like water through open fingers. You move, and the day will not return what you gave it. The list shrinks on paper, and yet the feeling inside swells with restlessness. The body reads this confusion before the mind gives it a name. Breath shortened, vision narrowed, muscles braced for the next urgent thing. In these moments, motion keeps you occupied, while progress keeps its distance. Not because you lack strength or will, because the field has not been prepared. Preparation is not glamorous, yet it is a tenderness that your nervous system recognizes as safety. When tomorrow has even a simple sketch, the alarms inside quiet, shoulders lower without effort, the mind that solves problems comes back to the front. What felt like chaos begins to sort itself into lines you can follow. Solomon's wisdom speaks with a farmer's patience. Prepare the work in the field and then build the house. The body hears this and relaxes. The soul hears this and agrees. There is a map that turns effort into structure without adding pressure. It begins with an aim that fits into a single sentence. Not a paragraph, not a speech, just one clear line that answers what matters most now. When the aim is small enough to breathe, attention stays. The heart does not choke on a mountain. It climbs a hill with steady steps. The sentence becomes a gentle anchor that keeps the day from drifting. Next comes an honest meeting with constraints. Many people treat constraints like enemies. They are often guardians in plain clothes. When you name the limits of time and energy and season, your plan stops picking fights it cannot win. The body stops expecting the impossible and begins to commit to the real. Anxiety falls when reality is allowed to speak. Courage grows when a path respects the edges that protect it. After aim and constraints, the mind is ready to notice levers. A lever is the little act that moves the big outcome. It is the email that opens a week of opportunity. It is the conversation that prevents a month of confusion. It is the template that saves 100 unmade decisions. Levers feel like grace because they redeem effort that used to scatter. You sense power becoming focused rather than stretched thin. There is one more piece that calms the storm: the first brick. Not the entire wall, the first brick. When you know the very next concrete action that honors the aim and fits the constraints and touches a lever, the body unclenches. The day no longer taunts you with 1,000 choices. It offers one clear move that belongs exactly where you stand. Peace comes from that kind of clarity. Momentum grows from that kind of peace. Spirituality and emotional neuroscience meet here with surprising agreement. Uncertainty turns the inner alarms high and floods the system with hurry. A modest plan lowers those alarms and returns oxygen to the parts of the brain that choose and create. The soul experiences this as hope. The body experiences this as ease. Hope and ease together build courage that does not shout. It simply goes on. Picture a field at dawn, tools laid out, boundaries marked, soil turned where it needs turning and left alone where it needs rest. The farmer is not lazy because he is not racing. He is faithful because he is orderly. He trusts that sequence protects strength. He trusts that sequence protects joy. A house framed without this preparation may look impressive for a moment, yet it will ask for repairs that cost twice what a morning of design would have spared. There is a quiet relief in this way of working. Decisions no longer crowd each other. Hours stop fighting. Energy invests rather than leaks. You end the day with the kind of tired that satisfies rather than the kind that shames. The blueprint does not hold you in a cage. It releases you from confusion. It lets your gifts breathe without burning. Let the image settle. A table cleared. A sheet of paper with a single line that states what matters. A few true limits written like friendly fences. A handful of levers circled where they belong. One brick placed where the foundation is strong. The field is ready. The mind is clear. The house will rise at the right pace. What once felt messy begins to feel meaningful. What once felt frantic begins to feel like a calling unfolding in order and in peace. There are seasons when the mind keeps repeating the same line that more is needed before anything real can begin. More money, more tools, more permission, more certainty. And as that line plays on loop, the body tightens and the days grow heavy with postponement. Scarcity speaks in a narrow voice that makes rooms feel smaller and horizons feel farther. You are not lazy when you feel this weight. You are simply standing at the gate of a field that has not yet revealed the value of the seeds already in your hands. A seed is quiet power. It carries a future inside a humble shell. It looks like almost nothing, and yet it holds patterns, nourishment, and the promise of multiplication. In your life, a seed can be a small skill that you overlook because it feels natural, a relationship marked by trust that you treat as ordinary, an asset sitting on your desk that you no longer notice, a story you lived that could guide another, a process you use without thinking that could be taught or turned into a tool. Small does not mean empty. Small often means ready. Ancient wisdom invites us to consider the ant, a creature that prepares in the warmth so it will not starve in the cold. The ant does not gather with drama. It gathers because the season invites action, and the action creates a season of safety. Neuroscience agrees with this simplicity. When the brain sees a modest task completed and a modest deposit made, it records the win and opens the door to the next one. The alarm system quiets. The breath lengthens. The future no longer arrives as a threat. It arrives as the next step in a pattern that makes sense. Imagine the 5 seeds that live within reach. A skill you carry in your bones, a contact who trusts your name, an asset close by that could be shaped into something useful, a story that has earned its wisdom through tears and patience, a process you repeat so regularly that it has become invisible. Each of these can be honored in 3 small expressions that fit your current season. One might be shared in service, one might be taught with clarity, one might be shaped into a simple system that saves time and relieves confusion. The single seed becomes 3 forms of life, and the body feels the relief of momentum returning. Perfectionism will argue against this path because perfectionism feeds on delay. It promises a perfect start that never arrives and calls any honest beginning an embarrassment. Wisdom speaks with a steadier tone. Begin where you are with what is already true and let truth compound. The nervous system understands this rhythm. It experiences the right-sized step as safety and turns that safety into energy. The shoulders lower, the jaw loosens, the eyes regain their depth, power returns because pressure releases its chokehold. There is a grace that follows good stewardship. What once felt like drought becomes a field with small green shoots. The day stops apologizing for its size and starts bearing fruit according to its kind. The modest deposit of attention turns into the storehouse of confidence. Margin appears where there used to be only scarcity. Margin is not greed. Margin is room to be generous. Margin is time to think before the storm. Margin is the difference between surviving your work and being able to love the people your work touches. This way of living is spiritual without noise. It honors the seasons of preparation and reaping. It trusts that there is enough wisdom in the design of the world to reward small, faithful steps with outcomes that are larger than the steps themselves. Emotional steadiness grows beside practical results. The soul feels less hunted. The body learns a calmer gait. You start to see how preparation and patience can rescue a life from constant crisis. A storehouse is not built in a day. It is built in a rhythm of deposits that accumulate until safety becomes tangible. The doors of the storehouse open, and you notice that fear speaks less often and less loudly. You notice that your decisions are cleaner because they are no longer coated with panic. You notice that opportunity tends to visit where reliability lives, and that reliability is simply the harvest of many days when you honored the seed you had rather than the fantasy of a seed you did not. Hold this image until it warms your hands. Seed to sheaves to storehouse. Begin to feel how the smallest faithful act can change the chemistry of a day. Begin to feel how a day with honest deposits becomes a week with momentum and a month with margin. Begin to feel how a life once defined by waiting can turn into a life defined by steady creation. The weather will still change, the seasons will still test you, yet the pattern will hold. The seed will do what seeds do. The field will answer. The storehouse will stand. Some people enter a room like a trumpet and leave behind a trail of exhaustion, and some arrive like first light, and the room breathes easier without anyone quite knowing why. If you have ever felt awkward at the thought of self-promotion or tired from opportunities that seem to evaporate after a few loud promises, there is nothing wrong with you. Your body is telling the truth. The nervous system prefers trustworthy presence over noisy performance. Safety is the first door through which real opportunity walks, and safety is built in quiet, consistent ways. There is a belief that tries to sound like strength and ends up isolating the heart. It says that success on your own means you should need no one, that asking for help dilutes your independence, that partnership is a disguise for dependence. The soul knows this is not wisdom. The body knows it too. Watch what happens inside you when a reliable person sits beside a hard problem. Your breath deepens. Your shoulders drop. Options appear that you could not see alone because fear had narrowed your vision. Independence is not the absence of connection. It is the presence of choice within connection. Solomon gave language to the way courage multiplies when companionship is woven with care. Two walk with greater warmth than one, and a cord braided with a third strand resists the weather. Hear this not as a slogan, but as a design for how strength travels. One strand can be cut by a sharp moment. Two strands hold longer. Three strands begin to form a rope that does not panic when the wind rises. The picture is simple, and the truth is deep. When reliability is braided, fragility recedes. Emotional neuroscience describes a similar pattern with different words. The human nervous system co-regulates. When a trustworthy presence enters the scene, stress chemistry softens, and the planning centers of the brain light up again. You think more clearly. You hear your own wisdom with less static. You notice details that urgency had blurred. This is why the right alliances create both protection and leverage. Protection, because calm minds make clean choices under pressure. Leverage, because shared trust extends your reach into rooms your feet have not yet entered. Quiet alliances are built on a small handful of movements that look almost ordinary. Show up when you say you will, and let your word grow a reputation of its own. Offer value without a drum roll and without keeping score in your tone. Speak well of others when they cannot hear you, and let that kindness move faster than gossip. Receive help with gratitude that does not shrink your dignity. Return help with timing that proves you are paying attention. These gestures seem small until you notice how they change the weather in a relationship. The air clears. People breathe. Work travels farther than effort alone could carry it. Many feel a chill at the idea of networking because the word has been coated with strategies that strain the soul. There is another way. Let your connections become a quiet ledger of goodwill rather than a marketplace of favors. Think of it as a rhythm rather than a tactic. A gentle circulation of introductions that make sense and resources shared at the right moment, and words of affirmation spoken where they will heal a reputation rather than inflate an ego. As this rhythm repeats, something invisible forms around your name. People trust that your presence is good for the room. Doors open because reliability is already inside. This is not about volume. The loudest people often burn through chances because noise promises what character cannot keep. This is about weight. When your presence carries the weight of reliability, others feel safer to take meaningful risks with you. Projects become cleaner. Conflicts resolve without smoke. Opportunities arrive without fanfare and feel oddly natural, like a key turning in a door that was made for it. You are still succeeding on your own. You are simply doing it in a way that honors how human beings actually thrive. Imagine the city gates at first light. Traders and builders and travelers cross paths without shouting for attention because their names already carry a story. The guard nods because a reputation has walked through these arches before and left no damage behind. Your life can feel like that, a quiet approach that gathers strength by being consistent, a name that moves ahead of you with a soft authority. The right people recognize it, the right doors respond to it. Even your body recognizes it and relaxes into a confidence that needs no costume. There is a beautiful reciprocity in this design. You become the kind of person who steadies rooms, and rooms begin to steady you. You become the kind of person who remembers small details, and small details begin to remember you. You become the kind of person who honors trust, and trust becomes a path you can walk without anxiety crowding the edges. You stop chasing and start receiving, and then you return what you receive in ways that keep the stream clear. The fruit of quiet alliances is both practical and spiritual. Practically, you gain range. A conversation travels through networks you did not build in a day and returns with help you could not have bought at any price. Spiritually, you gain rest. You are no longer performing for belonging. You are participating in belonging. Your work becomes less like a spotlight that blinds and more like a hearth that warms. The people near you feel seen. You feel seen. Fear loosens its grip because you no longer stand alone in a storm. Let the image of those city gates linger. Dawn. Stone warmed by the first sun. Footsteps that echo without hurry. Names that arrive before faces and make the faces welcome. This is quiet alliance. This is networking without noise. It does not ask you to pretend. It asks you to be reliable in ways that your body recognizes as honest and kind. In that honesty, your independence grows stronger, not weaker. In that kindness, your success becomes generous, not fragile. And when the wind rises, as it always does, the braided cord holds. There are weeks that pass like a blur, and there are weeks that change the way time feels in your hands. This kind of week does not arrive with trumpets. It arrives like slow dawn, breath by breath, choice by choice. A simple pattern gathers the scattered pieces of the self and weaves them into something strong and quiet. The body knows when such a week begins. The chest loosens. The eyes find depth again. The mind stops pleading for relief and starts trusting the rhythm. On the first day, there is light, where decisions once felt heavy. 3 steady perspectives stand around a single question, the way lanterns ring a path at night. One voice speaks from experience and names the bends in the road. One voice speaks from companionship and reflects who you are without distortion. One voice speaks from craft and hears the difference that skill alone can hear. Ownership does not weaken in this circle. It grows. The hand that signs the choice is still your hand, only warmer and steadier. The nervous system understands this kind of resourcing and lowers its alarms. A quiet line appears where there used to be a maze. On the second day, the inner court receives its order. There is a promise remembered without drama, a boundary treated like a kind gate, a familiar temptation answered in advance with words that feel alive in the mouth. The effect is small and immediate. The body softens because truth is being honored. The mind relaxes because decision fatigue is not invited to run the whole day. The soul feels seen rather than managed. Ruling the spirit begins to feel less like effort and more like consent. On the third day, a blueprint opens across the table and the future stops crowding the present. One clear aim is named in language that breathes. A few honest constraints step forward and make the plan humane. A handful of levers shine with the grace of small things that move large outcomes. One first brick waits where the foundation is strong. Uncertainty loses its teeth in this light. The brain's creative center stirs. Hope returns without fanfare. The day no longer drips away. It gathers. On the fourth day, seed becomes movement. A modest skill that once felt forgettable finds 3 forms of life. A relationship marked by trust expresses itself in service and in teaching, and in a simple system that saves time. An asset on the desk begins to carry its weight in a way that surprises you. Perfectionism tries to interrupt, and the body does not obey it. The body recognizes the medicine of small good work and records the win. Momentum arrives as relief rather than pressure. On the 5th day, alliance breathes. Value moves quietly across a table where names are safe. A thoughtful introduction happens at the right moment. A resource lands where it will ease a burden rather than call attention to itself. A few honest words strengthen a reputation in rooms where gossip once tried to thin it. Something invisible gathers around your name. Doors open with the sound of trust rather than applause. The city gates feel closer. On the 6th day, reflection clears the glass. The week stands in the light without performance. What worked is kept, and named. What rubbed the edges is softened without shame. The pace adjusts by a finger's width, just enough to protect what is tender and sustain what is strong. The brain loves this kind of review because it turns experience into wisdom rather than noise. The heart loves it because gratitude finally has a place to sit down and speak. On the seventh day, perspective returns like clean air after rain. The spirit looks beyond the small theater of urgency and remembers the larger story. Gifts are acknowledged without denial of limits. Limits are honored without denial of possibility. The next 7 days begin to glow faintly at the edge of attention, with less fear clinging to them. Rest does its quiet work in the bones. Desire becomes gentle again. The compass points without strain. 7 days, and the pattern holds. Counsel steadies what once shook. Inner rulership ends the civil war within. Design turns effort into structure. Seeds multiply without noise. Alliances braid safety and reach. Review converts motion into meaning. Rest renews the ground where everything grows. This is not a program, it is a way of being. The body can inhabit it. The soul can breathe in it. The mind can plan inside it without losing tenderness. When such a week is lived, even imperfectly, a person begins to notice how fear reduces in volume and clarity rises in tone. The future stops arriving as a threat and starts arriving as a conversation. The weight of independence changes shape. It no longer feels like a pack strapped too tight across the shoulders. It feels like a cloak sized to fit, warm without suffocating, simple without being small. And when the weather shifts, as it always will, the pattern remains ready to carry you again. The room within you feels different now. The air is clearer. The mind is not running so far ahead of the body. The heart is not pleading with the hour to be something it cannot be. You have walked through counsel that steadies, through inner rulership that calms, through design that turns motion into progress, through seed that multiplies without noise, through alliances that braid strength. The map is no longer a distant idea. It is a rhythm living under your ribs. Something tender and strong is taking root. Pressure is loosening its grip, and purpose is finding its rightful weight. The nervous system is learning a new language, where clarity lowers alarms and rhythm restores courage. You can feel the shift in the way your shoulders rest, in the way your breath chooses depth over speed, in the way your attention holds a line without tearing. What once felt like surviving begins to feel like a life you can inhabit with dignity. This is the part of the journey where identity quietly changes shape. You are not a lone figure fighting the dark. You are a wise builder, moving by a compass that does not lie. The inner court is in order, and the throne of intention is not easily overthrown. The blueprint is open on the table, and the first bricks are set where the foundation is true. The seed is already speaking in 3 clear voices. The city gates remember your name and open without spectacle. There will still be weather. There will still be days that lean hard against your resolve. The difference is that you are braided now. Your choices are tied to wisdom and to rhythm and to companionship that remembers your true size. A sudden gust does not undo a cord that has been woven with care. A long night does not erase a path that has been walked in daylight. The pattern holds. The body remembers. The soul refuses to forget. There is a grace that meets those who build quietly. It appears in moments that look ordinary from the outside and feel sacred from within. A question that used to rattle you now receives a simple answer that fits. A conflict that used to steal whole days now resolves before noon. An opportunity that would have felt overwhelming now arrives as a clean yes or a clean no. Your effort begins to sing because it is placed where it belongs. You are learning the difference between loud and strong. Loud strains for attention and leaves the room thinner than it found it. Strong carries weight without shouting and leaves the room more human. The world will keep rewarding noise for a while, yet it will always be changed by those who carry quiet authority. That is the path you have chosen, not because you need to prove anything, because you were made for work that lasts. Every symbol we have walked now gathers into a single image, a compass aligned, a throne in order, a blueprint in clean light, a seed becoming sheaves, and then a storehouse, city gates opening at first sun. This is not a fantasy of ease. This is a design for endurance. This is how a life holds together when the season tests it. This is how independence becomes wise and how success becomes generous. If these words have steadied you, allow the steadiness to keep moving. Return to what is already true in your hands. Keep company with voices that make you more yourself. Honor the rhythm that protects your clarity. Build from a plan that respects your season. Multiply the seed you already carry. Walk through gates where trust lives. Not for show, for the kind of peace that lets love do its work through your work. Stand in this final question and let it echo gently until it finds its answer in you. Which promise will you keep tonight so that your spirit can rule tomorrow?